Hey guys, how's it going? So today I'll be checking out the Lenovo Legion 5i. This is the 2025 model and it is redesigned compared to the previous Legion 5s, but it's still within the same Lenovo family of products in terms of the build design. So compared to the Legion 7, what are you really losing? Well, before I even get into it, it doesn't seem like too much. Hopefully you're able to get a good deal on this if you're interested in this versus the Legion 7, because sometimes it's priced just right, sometimes it's priced a little bit too high. Pricing is kind of crazy and all over the place. A lot of this has to do with the tariffs, and I really hate it. The tariffs are not good for anyone. I don't care what anybody says. Anyway, let's get right into it. So, first, as always, the build and design, and one thing you may be noticing immediately is there's a lot of wear and tear on this. I bought this from Best Buy, open box, and it said excellent condition. Look at this. Can you guys leave a comment and let me know if you think that this is considered excellent? There's a scratch right here, there's a dent here, and there's another dent somewhere that's not really showing up right now. But regardless, just be aware of Best Buy with their quote-unquote open box. Anyway, as you're probably seeing, man, I wiped this laptop off a billion times before I started filming, and I just can't keep wiping it off. If not, I'll never get this laptop video filmed. And that was the same thing with the Legion 7. Very, very fingerprinty, much more than other laptops in this price class. But anyway, you are getting a solid, nice aluminum lid on the top. It feels very nice. Plastic on the back here, and I mentioned this a lot, that plastic is necessary for ventilation and cooling because all the hot air is coming out of here, and aluminum and metal in general holds on to heat a lot more than plastic does. So it's really important to have plastic here. And also at the back, you are getting plastic here compared to if you got the Legion 7, it would have been metal. Not a big deal though, it's a really high quality plastic. Again though, the fingerprints are kind of crazy. And yeah, so you can immediately see that this is similar to the Legion 7 in terms of the design. They're just stripping out a few components. So anyway, so the port situation is fairly good. You're getting your power adapter, and it is using a fairly flat power brick from Lenovo. As you can see, this is very scratched up. Again, quote unquote, open box, excellent. And this thing is able to push out a lot of power, which I'll get into a little bit later on. Anyway, back to the ports. It's nice to see that you are getting Thunderbolt 4 at this price point and a USB power delivery. One of these supports DisplayPort directly to the GPU. Moving on, 2 more USB Type A's and a physical camera shutter switch. And the good thing about the physical shutter switch here is it kills the power to the camera, so it can't be turned on through software. So really good for privacy. And you are getting an RJ45 and Ethernet port. I like these kind of flappy ones here where, you know, it doesn't really need to take up as much space. So really nicely done in terms of the ports. So when you open it up, very easy, one hand. This is a gaming laptop, so it is heavier, so it is easier for it to achieve that. And in terms of the wobble, very minimal to no wobble at all. So let's open this guy up, and you're good to the keyboard deck, and the first thing you're going to notice is the Legion True Strike. I hate using marketing buzz terms, but they're calling it the Legion True Strike keyboard. I forgot which generation they're in, but it is one of the best keyboards out there, not only at this price point, but at any price point. Lenovo, with their ThinkPad line, really knows how to make a good keyboard, and this one really shines at that. I love the way the keys feel. There's absolutely no wobble on the keys itself. It has a really nice snap when you press it down. Not too much force when it comes back up, but it feels just right. And it doesn't feel too membraney. It doesn't feel cheap. It's just really nice and satisfying to type on. And the way these keys are kind of curved when you press down on it, your fingers just naturally land on the keys itself. It just feels really precise. It's one of those things you really just have to try a Lenovo keyboard to understand what all the hype is about. By far the best keyboard out there. And what makes this even more my favorite kind of keyboard is it has a full number pad, and it doesn't affect the arrow keys. You're getting the full style number pad with the plus, the minus, and the enter to the right. I'm an accountant by day, so having this is very necessary for me and very important. And I've been really enjoying working with this laptop at my 9-to-5 job. One issue I do have though, I can forgive at this price point that the RGB on the keyboard is multi-zone and not per key RGB, but man, it is very dim. You can't even see that the keyboard lights are on right now and it's at full brightness. So for me to capture this, I had to turn off most of my lights just to be able to see it. So right now I can't really see that the RGB is on. Next thing you may be noticing is this is audio by Harman, and on the Legion 7 the speakers were fine, but on this they don't sound too good. Let's do a little speaker test.
I tried to cook it up.
I'll try to remember to put a YouTube link of this video so you can listen to how it sounds on your particular rig. I do want to compare this to the iPhone because ironically, the iPhone 17 Pro Max's speakers on this small phone compared to this gigantic laptop sounded better. Let's take a listen. So I understand this is not the Legion 7, this is the Legion 5, it's not their flagship, but also at the same time, I would not expect a phone to sound better than the laptop speakers. That just does not make sense to me. So speakers is not something you'll be buying this laptop for, but there's a lot of other good things that this laptop has going for it. So this portion of the video is brought to you by KeysFan. I don't know if you guys heard, but Windows 10 is officially out of commission. So if you were looking to get into Windows 11, or if you wanted to upgrade to Windows 11 Professional, this is a good way to do that. Or if you're looking for a specific software, just take a look here first. You might be able to get it a lot cheaper. And what KeysFan is offering is 50% off for any Windows upgrades or 62% off for any Microsoft Office series upgrades. Just use the code DTH50 for Windows or DTH62 for Office. It's super easy too. You just search for the program or software that you're looking for, click on it, add to cart, then go to proceed to checkout, and then don't forget to use my specific code listed down below, apply the discount, and just watch the amount of money that you're about to save. Thanks a lot, KeysFan, for sponsoring this portion of the video. All right, back to the Legion Pro. All right, so yeah, moving on. Trackpad. It is small, but it is Lenovo, so it always works well. It glides well, incredibly smooth, very easy to use. And it's very precise when you're using it. If you do like precise work, if you're just like working in Excel or in like Photoshop, etc., when you're using those small sliders, I have no problem tracking to what I need to do with this. And it's weird. I do find that plastic trackpads do a little bit better, but in terms of wear and tear, you definitely start to see it after a while. Like if you try to buy any old laptops on eBay, you can see one of the first things that really starts to show its age is the trackpad. So plastic is good, but then it's not going to last as long. And this light here, depending on the different mode you're in, it will have a different color. So right now I'm on battery mode, so it's just using the generic profile, so it's just white. But then when you plug it in, it turns red, indicating that it's in performance mode. And in the Legion space, you can change the different profiles. There's quiet, which turns blue, balance, which turns white, which is the same as when it's on battery mode, and performance, which turns red. And then there is a custom mode, which makes it purple, and you can go in there and start customizing the different profiles and stuff. I didn't mess with that for the purposes of this video. I just did all my testing in performance, and I will get to performance soon. But yeah, so overall though, man, this laptop, even though this isn't the flagship, it just feels really nice to hold on to, even though it is a lot of plastic. And as you can see, based off of the wear and tear from the previous owner of this product that was purchased from Best Buy, it will show its age fairly quickly. And I can see some more like little micro scratches and stuff here. Like I said, there is a scratch here. I don't know how much more wear and tear will start to show up after a while, but you know what? I guess it just kind of is what it is. You can see back here that there's a lot of radiators, and also at the same point, you're not getting any ports at the back. But let me just show you the sides again. There is no exhaust coming through the left or the right hand side. So when you're gaming with a mouse, your mouse hand will not get hot. And I find that to be distracting in many situations. It just pulls me out of the experience. It reminds me that I'm using a gaming laptop. And another thing that takes me out of the experience is the noise. And the noise is higher in this laptop compared to the Legion 7. It is pretty loud, but usually you're going to be using a gaming headset anyway. Just once it has any type of decent passive noise isolation, then you'll be fine. You're not going to really be able to hear the fans as much. And usually I do like to drown out the sound of the fans with the speakers, but the speakers on this laptop just aren't good enough to do that. So I would say that when you're gaming, you absolutely need a headset. So that's just something to keep in mind. And in terms of gaming, I mean, I just threw on some games and I just started playing around with it just like I would with any other laptops. And I found nothing intrusive, nothing weird, nothing got in the way. I've obviously, again, except for the noise, everything just felt right. The input latency felt nice and low, which I expect from typical Lenovo laptops. Maybe on par with the Legion 7. I wish I had the two of them to compare side by side, but usually something like latency is something that'll stick out to me immediately. And in fact, most of the laptops that I checked out this year did not have any issues with that. So I'm really happy with that. Really enjoyed gaming on this. All right, so onto the display. And I forgot to run my measurements. You're going to see them on screen like I typically do, but I'm going to have to guess how this screen performs. And that may contradict what you're seeing on screen, and I apologize about that. But in a way, it could kind of hold me accountable to see if I actually do know what I'm talking about. So, but this seems like it's the same caliber panel as the Legion 7. I would assume that they measure almost identically in terms of the HDR performance, in terms of the response time. It is OLED, obviously, so you're going to get instant. It seems to be the same type of glossy panel, incredibly glossy, which is good or bad depending on your taste. Glossy makes the screen look better and sharper, and the colors and the gradients do look better, but also at the same time, you can see a reflection while you're gaming. And this is almost unusable in bright sunlight. And this display does support variable refresh rate once you're using 165 watts. So while you could be on battery, and you can get anywhere between 60 hertz and 165 hertz. So that's really nice to have. In terms of brightness, I'm going to assume that this is around the 500 nit brightness that the Legion 7 got, which is amazing if I'm right about this. No other OLED laptops have been able to approach that level of brightness. They're usually around 450 nits and maybe best case scenario 450 nits. The difference between 450 nits and 500 nits is fairly noticeable. So really nice to see that here. In terms of the colors, I'm going to assume that you're going to get the full sRGB, the full DCI-P3, and maybe 90% of Adobe RGB. In terms of HDR performance, which is hit or miss with laptops, just the way I guess they're calibrated or just the way they're configured out of the factory, this one looks great. I usually test it on Cyberpunk because I've seen the way that game looks on HDR on a variety of screens, from TVs to monitors, and every single laptop that I've tested, and this looks right. That's not always the case with HDR. Where sometimes you have to go in there, you have to tweak a lot of the settings because things look weird. Thankfully, things look good out of the box here. So yeah, overall, the display is as good as the Legion 7, though you're only getting 165 hertz versus 240 hertz on that display. All right, so moving on. In terms of the performance, I'm going to start off with my typical Steel Nomad stress test. So what you're seeing here is the frames per second, and it's running the same test 20 times. This is essentially testing the stability of the system. How much frames does it lose as it's starting to go down? And as you can see, it is pretty much staying consistent. I didn't talk about the temps yet. I'll talk about that afterwards, but spoiler alert, despite the temps getting fairly high, it's able to contain itself. Unfortunately, I don't have any other 5070 Ti laptops that I've tested, so I don't know if there's any type of inherent throttling of this system, maybe some power limit throttling to make sure that it doesn't get too hot. But as far as I'm concerned, because this is the only 5070 Ti laptop that I've tested, you should expect around 40 FPS. I would like to test out some others before the end of the year. Comparing it to the Legion 7 Gen 10 with the 5090, it's not even close. So, I mean, the 5090 is a lot more expensive, but you are getting a lot more laptop out of that. In terms of the 5080, you're getting about 10 FPS more between 39 and 40, which is about an 18% difference. So let's test out Time Spy, which I'm starting to not care about Time Spy as much anymore, but I know a lot of you guys still do. So I'm just going to throw it up here really fast, and let me know if you guys want me to still continue testing Time Spy. I feel it's a bit outdated at this point in terms of the way it measures its graphics. It only tests the GPU, and then it only tests the CPU. Most modern games use simultaneously both the GPU and the CPU, so I don't find this to be a very realistic test anymore, and I will be discontinuing it unless you scream at me in the comments saying not to. All right, moving on. Avatar Frontiers, our first real game. At 4K, you're getting 34 FPS, and every game I run is at maxed out settings, so you can tweak things around and be able to get better FPS, but I just made a decision a long time ago to test and maxed out settings, because you can see what the absolute worst case is when you actually get this laptop. And what that means is this is capable of 4K, which is good to know. 1440p is 62 FPS, and 1080p is 80, and you can see a comparison of how other laptops did based off of the 5080 and the 5090s to see how much performance you want versus how much you want to spend. Next, Cyberpunk, and this game is a beast. If you want to play this game at 4K with the overdrive settings and everything maxed out essentially, you'll need frame generation at 2x to run it at 30 FPS. You can also increase the frame generation, but I don't like using anything more than 2x. 4K is 17 FPS, so like I said, not possible at 4K, but at 1440p, you're getting 33 FPS, which is, in that game, I would say playable. 50 FPS at 1080p, and remember, maxed out settings, so for this 5070 Ti, that's pretty good. Horizon Zero Dawn, a bit of an older game, and why I still test this game out is I'm not using any DLSS, I'm not using any RTX, nothing like that, just good old-fashioned rasterization so you can see what older games look like, or if you don't want to use DLSS or AMD's FreeSync, etc. So you're getting 65 at 4K, 119 at QHD, and 150 at 1080p. I have a whole bunch of different laptops up here, so just pause it to take a look at what's important to you, but essentially it performs worse than a fully fledged 4080 from last year, so that's something else to keep in mind. If you're still able to find 4080 laptops at a cheaper price, even on the used market, maybe consider that. You're going to get better performance if all you care about is gaming and you don't care about the new frame generation and some of the other 50 series exclusives, which I personally don't. In terms of the CPU, this is using the Intel Core Ultra 275, and it performs pretty much identical to some of the other ones that I've tested. You can just see that here from the CPU profile test from 3D Mark. So in terms of the temps, man, they get pretty high. It would cycle between 80 and 90 when playing Cyberpunk, because that's a game that stresses both the CPU and the GPU simultaneously. And the GPU sometimes got up to 80 degrees, which is a bit higher than what I like to see for the GPU. I like to keep it around like the high 70s. Around 85, 86 is when you get into the danger territory with the GPU. And the CPU can thermal throttle and go down. The GPU never really wants to hit those temperatures at all. I've had experiences where if the GPU gets up to 86 or 87 degrees, the entire laptop would just shut off and you have to restart it. So something to keep in mind. If you're in a warmer environment, that might be something to consider. Or you might want to get a laptop cooler. And my next video will be on a laptop cooler, so get subscribed for that. But in terms of battery, like everybody asks me about battery, you're not going to get more than 2 to 3 hours out of battery. This CPU requires 45 watts constantly just to run Windows properly. If you're getting anything with the Core Ultra 275HX or any of the HX series CPUs, you're meant to be plugged in most of the time. And it does not do well when it's not plugged in either. They can work on battery, but you're not going to get a good experience. That's just how Intel designed this chip. But anyway, yeah, I don't know where to take this video from here. If you guys have any questions, leave me a comment. I love seeing comments. More than views, more than likes, more than subs. That's what I love seeing the most. So just leave me a comment. I don't get a chance to reply to all of them anymore, but I do love seeing them. So if there's anything I didn't cover, leave me a comment and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks, guys. Bye.